Sometimes when you remake a horror classic, it ends up being one big botch. This is not one of those times. Welcome to WWH. My name is Andrew Dreamer. Thank you for joining us today. We have an action-packed show in store for you today. If this is your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss anything we've got coming. Without further ado, let's get this show started. Today we are taking a look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre released in 2003. You can tell the difference between the original and this remake because the word chainsaw is one word in this film's title. Right off the bat, I've got to say this is one of the best remakes that I've ever seen, and I'm typically not a fan of remakes, but this one is really, really good. This film was directed by Marcus Nispel. It stars Jessica Biel, Jonathan Tucker, Arlie Ermey, and Andrew Bynarski as Leatherface. It also features the return of cinematographer Daniel Pearl, who worked on the original film and who also convinced Nispel to direct the film. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre tells the story of 5 friends on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert who are hunted by a chainsaw-wielding killer known as Leatherface and his family who are just as psychotic as he is. This movie hits a lot of the same beats as the OG, but it differentiates itself enough to be a really good remake. That being said, let's head down to the ring for some WWH action. The film opens up with another narration from John LaRoquette. We then see some crime scene footage of a police officer investigating the Hewitt home. In this film, the family's name is Hewitt. I like the inclusion of this footage because it's an element that we haven't ever seen before. With that out of the way, it's time to meet the stars. Sweet Home Alabama plays as a group of 5 friends, including Aaron, Kemper, Morgan, Pepper, and Andy are traveling through Texas on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert, and their van looks pretty similar to the van from the original. While driving, they almost hit a young girl hitchhiking in the middle of the road. She looks like she's been through some stuff, but they pick her up and she starts talking about this crazy man before she pulls out a gun and she shoots herself. And the follow-up shot with the camera pulling back through the wound is amazing. They stop at a gas station to call the police, and a woman named Luda May tells them that Sheriff Hoyt is going to meet them at the Old Crawford Mill. Now, this gas station has a lot of nasty-looking barbecue, just like the one from Hooper's film. When they arrive at the mill, the sheriff is nowhere to be found, but they do find a young boy named Jedediah. Jed tells them that the sheriff is at home getting drunk and gives them directions to the house. Aaron and Kemper head into the woods to look for the house, and they eventually come across this old plantation home. They expect to find the sheriff, but instead find an amputee in a wheelchair named Monty. He says the sheriff doesn't live here, but he lets Aaron in the house to call him. Kemper is forced to stay outside, but gets impatient and enters the house. He gets sidetracked while looking for Aaron and gets blindsided by Leatherface with a hammer. We get another door slam as he drags Kemper into the basement to dismember him. In the original, there's very little blood, but that's not the case here. We see all the gore. There's enough blood in this movie to make John Moxley blush. Meanwhile, back at the mill, Sheriff Hoyt shows up to dispose of the hitchhiker's body, and this character portrayed by Arlie Ermey is one of the meanest and nastiest characters ever, and he plays this role to perfection. Hoyt leaves with the body, and Aaron returns to discover that Kemper is missing. She and Andy return to the house to look for him. Aaron distracts Monty while Andy sneaks into the house to search. When Monty realizes that Andy's inside the house, he bangs his cane on the floor to summon Leatherface, who shows up with chainsaw in hand to attack. Andy tells Aaron to save herself, and she runs out of the house. Andy also gets out and scrambles into a bunch of clotheslines with sheets on them. Leatherface catches up to Andy, and he saws his leg off right below the knee. I told you this version was bloody. He carries Andy down to the basement where he hangs him on another meat hook and literally rubs salt on the wound. Aaron makes it back to the mill and frantically tries to leave, but before they can, Hoyt shows up again. He finds RVD's stash in the van and orders Aaron and Pepper to lay in the dirt. He then forces Morgan to reenact how the hitchhiker shot herself. Morgan attempts to shoot Hoyt, but the gun is unloaded. Hoyt handcuffs Morgan and drives him to the Hewitt house, also smashing a glass bottle across his face in the process. Aaron and Pepper are attacked by Leatherface at the van. Pepper is killed and Aaron sees Kemper's face being worn by Leatherface. She escapes and hides in a nearby trailer owned by two women. They give her tea that has been drugged, and she discovers that they kidnapped the hitchhiker's baby because of a picture that they found earlier in the film. She tries to escape but passes out before she can. Aaron wakes up inside the Hewitt house surrounded by the entire family. Luda May then cuts a promo about how Leatherface was tormented his whole life because of a skin condition and how nobody cares about her or her family. Aaron is taken to the basement where she sees Andy still hanging. She tries to help him, but she just can't get him down. She puts him out of his misery to save him any more torment, although she could have done a better job. The way she does it just seemed like it would lead to more pain before death. She then finds Morgan handcuffed in a bathtub. Jedediah, who is not a fan of his family's actions, turns face and leads them out of the basement and distracts Leatherface long enough for them to escape. They find an abandoned shack in the woods and hide inside. Leatherface comes in and Morgan attacks him but is killed in an extremely brutal way. Aaron gets out and she makes her way to a nearby slaughterhouse. She hides in a locker and then attacks Leatherface with a meat cleaver, chopping his freaking arm off. Aaron runs outside where she gets picked up by Buddy Garrity. If you know, you know. She tries to stop him from going into the gas station, but it's to no avail. He goes inside to talk to Hoyt and Luda May, and the baby and one of the ladies from the trailer is also inside this store. Aaron gets out of the truck and sneaks into the store while everyone is outside. She takes the baby and hotwires Hoyt's car while he looks inside the truck. Out of nowhere, she runs over him repeatedly until he's dead. And honestly, he kind of deserved it. She drives away to safety and the film ends with the rest of the crime scene footage. As the officers investigate the house, they are attacked and killed by Leatherface, and we hear more narration saying that the case is still open. Well, what did you think about that? As I said earlier, this is one of the best remakes ever, in my opinion. I'm not exactly sure where I would rank this in the franchise, maybe second or third. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this movie and what your favorite horror remake is. We're not quite done with the show just yet, but we do have to take a quick break. We will be right back with more WWH action. If you're looking to save 20% off your entire order from Redcon1, look no farther because I have the perfect deal for you. If you'll use code AndrewDreamer right now at checkout, you will save 20% off your entire order. That is a huge discount and you can get some really, really great products. I use them every single day and honestly, I don't know what you're waiting for. This is a really good deal and you can save 20% off your order just by using code AndrewDreamer. So check it out and use that code. We are back now and heading right back down to the ring. The positives for this film are aplenty. I love the story. It has a lot of the same elements as the original, but it differs enough to be interesting. And that's a big problem with a lot of remakes. They don't add enough to give them a reason to exist. And this one adds a lot. The characters in this film are actually pretty likable too, except for Hoyt, who is just a despicable human being. And speaking of R. Lee Ermey, he is the highlight of this film. His portrayal is so believable and he knocks it out of the park. Another great performance comes from Jonathan Tucker, who plays Morgan. I'm a huge fan of his work, especially in the show Kingdom, where he plays an MMA fighter. I've said it before, I'm a huge fan of gore in movies, and this one delivers on that spectacularly. Everyone involved with TCM 2003 gives it their all, and it comes across on the screen. My favorite scene has to be the scene where Andy has his legs sawed off. That has stuck with me since the first time I saw this movie many years ago. Switching to the negative side of things for a moment, my biggest issue with this film is the love that I have for the original. My feelings about it are so ingrained in me that it takes me out of this one sometimes. Also, I'm not really a fan of the two ladies in the trailer. They just annoy me. I feel like they were only included in this film to make the family even more deplorable. I think I would have rather had that time spent with the actual family instead, but I'm going to leave it there. So let me know down in the comments what issues you have with this movie. Did you have any problems with it that I didn't? It's time to wrap up our show now, but all in all, this is a very good movie. It's well made, the acting is great, everything from the direction and cinematography was on point. Rewatching this to prepare for this review made me remember how much I actually love this film. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it now. You will not regret it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Leave a comment down below and keep your eyes open for all of the Wrestling with Horror content coming your way. But until next time, my name is Andrew Dreamer, and this is Wrestling with Horror.